feedback at the end, but we got some phenomenal feedback that I think is going to make this part 3 in the, I don't want to say it's going to conclude because like, it could be part 4. There's never anything that's part 4. It's always an odd number. So it
Just
might
call
be
it it's the first trilogy, and what it could be a series of trilogies.
That's true. That's true.
That's
okay.
the way I think of it.
Now, I don't know if this trilogy occurs before or after the subsequent trilogy. Irrelevant, doesn't matter. But we got a great email from someone in the Czech Republic, I think, or at least who was very knowledgeable. And they kind of picked up on our kolache talk, and they gave us kind of I wouldn't call it a reading the riot act, but they were very concerned.
It was polite yet very firm.
That's right. That's right. Now I'm not going to read the whole thing. Maybe Brandon, we could put it in the show notes so that people can go back and read it. But let me summarize. They were like, to the Czech people, the kolache is a delicious, sugary, light and fluffy thing. Almost like, you go like, I don't know what the kids are up to nowadays, but I was in I was in Cambridge a couple weeks ago, and they've got these, I think it's everywhere. They've got these Japanese stores that are just like big, gigantic pillows that look super cute, like that thing in Netflix of this like lazy egg that's traveling around. And it's just like, I feel like that's the way they were describing what a kolache was. It's just like a nice, comfortable thing. It's sugary and soft. And they were like, hold on. So what you're telling me is that you're going to put jalapenos and sausage and probably cheese that is actually not cheese into it, and you're going to call that a kolache. And they were very, very disturbed. And so I thought, we've mentioned kolaches here and there in our Shipley's Dynasty conversation. And I thought we should finally, I don't know if we're going to put it to bed, put the pigs in a blanket, as it were, but we need to discuss the Texas kolache. And I don't even want to call it like, I'm not even going to call it the Texas kolache. I'm going to call it the Central Texas kolache, because I know, I know it's Shipley's. They've got a kolache, but I feel like the kolache is maybe like from Waco. I mean, I feel like
you're taking it to West, are you? The Czech stop?
Sure. I feel like you're going to be in West Texas. You're going to be in Waco.
No. The town of West. The Czech stop. It's the best kolaches on I-35.
Well, hold on. Well, I'm not there yet. Now you're going to get kolaches on that I-35 corridor once you enter. I forget if West or Waco comes first. Doesn't matter.
Waco.
If they both start with a W, it's all the same thing to an Austinite. And then, but I feel like once you get down to like San Marcos and definitely San Antonio, the San Antonians are going to be like, fuck that shit. Yeah, I got nothing to say about a kolache, right? So the kolache line ends there. And I think maybe the Shipley family, they were like traveling through Central Texas, and they were like, because the Shipley's kolache, I got a lot to say about that. There's something different. It's almost Houstonized.
Would you say it's spicy and fluffy?
Well, okay. Let's just get right into it. Okay. So now, maybe this is, I think, and I'm just extrapolating, extemporaneizing all the words that begin with EX here. I think maybe our Czech correspondent, and thanks for listening, by the way. Great to get an email. I'll always like a listener. I think the kolache they're describing is, I would call it, if I were to rank by the popularity is the wrong word, but I feel like the dominance of the kolache in Central Texas, it's a type 2 kolache. And that kolache is, you've got two types. Type 2 is, it is almost a, if the British people out there, if they know what like a compact, I think it's, would you call it a Yorkshire pudding? If you took a Yorkshire pudding and you shave the top off of it, so you've basically got like a tiny valley that's a square of like kind of, it's not Yorkshire pudding. That's a terrible analogy, but it's like, what's the dough I'm looking for that a kolache has? It's, I don't know what it is. It's fluffy.
It's not as fluffy as a croissant.
It's not croissant dough,
but
right?
It's like the highest quality pig in a blanket. Somewhere in there.
Yeah. It's it's like if a croissant, if you imagine a Romeo and Juliet situation where a croissant and a loaf of white bread got together and had a child, that's what this kolache dough is like, right? It's like perfectly, and then maybe the sort of like godmother and godfather were marshmallows. Like that's kind of like what you get with this kolache. And it's a perfect square. right? Or as perfect as you want something like this to be. And it's as if like a delicious marshmallow asteroid came in there and like hollowed it out and then kind of rounded it, like burned the crust so that it's kind of like a golden color inside. And then basically, as I always describe things with food, it makes it sound terrible, but I mean this in a good way. Basically, what happens is you put a bunch of like jelly inside, and it can be jelly. You could put jelly in there. You could put some cream cheese on it, like whatever you want. And it's sweet. It's delicious. My stepmother, Sue, used to make a whole sheet of them. They were fantastic. This is kolache type 2. It's a sweet thing that you have for breakfast in a sweet situation. Your thoughts, you two, since you have much experience with this.
I mean, I mean, I hate to tell our friend from the Czech Republic, but basically they're taking the pig in the blanket and they've swapped out the ingredients.
Well, hold on. We're gonna get to type 1 kolache because this is the thing about the kolache. Yeah. The kolaches in Central Texas are very confusing because they are very, very distinct thing. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten involved in a year, perhaps multi-decade discussion with a British person about what the fuck a pudding is. Right. But there's this strange distinction. It's probably like if you talk to like an Australian and a New Zealander and you were like, Marmite and Vegemite, I mean, really, what's the difference? Right. And so like there's all this nuance between it. But the type 2 kolache is a sweet, like bready thing with jelly inside. Right.
And that's most people, they're like, they're seeing those in the donuts and they're like, oh, they've got a cream cheese. It's a little sweet maybe. Or they've got, the
all right, but before we move on, though, I just want to give to Jan, he's the one that wrote in from our Czech Republic expert. So he came in and says that he defined it as a kolache is a soft, sweet, cloud-like pastry with a gentle filling of fruit, poppy seeds, or farmer's cottage cheese.
The poppy seeds are the best one. That is a type 2 kolache.
That is the type 2 kolache. Now, I don't know. I don't want to get into like anything political here, but I feel like us calling it type 2, given that they maybe originated that. Maybe that's wrong. Like, would we say it's the original? I mean, they did probably invent it.
It's an impressionistic view.
Or do we
take a lens of 1,000 miles?
I think also in their email, which we got to put in the show notes now because I'm not going to read it. They have a there's almost a begrudging, I wouldn't say respect because that's the wrong word, but acknowledgement of like, I know you Americans. You like to take things and innovate on them.
Well, right? the proud tradition of taking delicacies and it's improving.
It's almost like it's like I think in English, when you take a foreign word and you suck it into English, it's called a borrowed word. I think kolaches are like a borrowed pastry.
Okay,
right? Like,
got it. All right, so we're saying it's type 2, and I just want to let everyone know. Listen, for those that are interested, diehard fans, I will read the entire email at the end in the after show, so everyone will know. So is that way you get that? I don't want to make any writing go to waste. Okay, so for the moment though, we'll concede, even though I think this could generate another email. We'll call it the type 2 kolache. Now go ahead, Coté. Go, please continue on.
All right. So then you have the type 1 kolache, and again, I'm typing them based on Central Texas and Houston, and the predominance of them. This is what you would call market share, right? So the 1 and 2 are determined by market share, which is based solely on my perception of market share. I have no spreadsheets. So type 1 kolache. Now this. For those in the know, I'm going to give you a very brief way of putting it. It is a completely closed-end pig in a blanket. That's the basics of a type 1 kolache. Now, there's a lot of variation. Now, if you imagine this croissant meets white bread, godparents of a marshmallow. So you've got this kind of bread. You put it in the oven. It puffs up. It's all white bread, and it has that like golden. It's not crispy. It has like a slight sort of like resistance as you bite into it, but then it's all soft inside. Now, what you do with this kolache, there's all sorts of ways of doing it. Now, I think the technical word is this is a savory kolache. Now,
yes.
Before we get to that, you can also make a type 1 kolache with the sweet stuff in it. Particularly, my favorite is the poppy seeds inside of it, which is like poppy seeds in the kolache, it's one of those, for me, flavors that I wouldn't describe as good, but it's very enjoyable. It's sort of like, I don't know. Poppy seed with sugar is a strange
It's
thing.
got good mouthfeel, and it's not something you have every day.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're learning how to drink liquor, and for the first couple of years, it's like, this is terrible. And then you reach this intermediate state where you're like, I know this will get better. And then everything's
usually
fine
after the first drink, right?
Well, sure. But I'm thinking on a long timeline here.
Yes, on the longer timeline, you refine your palate.
Right. And then
you
sort of train and build up to it. Right. But so the type 1 kolache can actually be a sweet kolache, but never mind that. That's a footnote. So back to the type 1, it's always savory. Now, there's generally two things that you do. Well, I should say the main thing of a type 1 kolache is that you're going to have sausage inside of it. Now, depending on where you go, this may be a sausage. I don't know how. I don't know the terminology for sausage talk, but you either have a sausage that has a casing on it, right? It's got that kind of like a hot dog. I don't know, every German sausage, or you have this. You have the sausage that has no casing on it and has been shaped and cooked to like fit together as a oblong sort of meat stick, right? And so I think the kolache, I think the Shipley's ones have a casing on the sausage. And so there you have kind of like the little snap when you bite into it. And it's generally like the Shipley's kolaches, I think they have kind of like an anemic thin sausage in the middle. Now, it's not an American hot dog. It's an actual like sausage that they have in there. Now, whereas I think at the Czech Stop and other places, other big name places in the Central Texas kolache corridor, I think they generally don't have the skin on the kolache. They have like the loose meat with no skin.
More like the little Jimmy Dean where, exactly. It's been extruded. Yeah.
Right. And so if you imagine, I mean, sort of like listeners kind of like look at your hand and take about, let's say, 2/3 of that hand. And that is the size of like what I would call a standard Central Texas kolache, right? And it's going to be not a perfect square, but maybe like, what's the television ratio? 3:4. It's kind of like a 3:4 ratio of that dough. And your basic is the unskinned sausage inside. That's basic type 1 kolache. Now, there's two variations. There's other things, but the two basic variations are you can put jalapeno in the sausage, right? Still same thing, except it's jalapeno sausage. Or I don't think there's an option after this to not have the jalapeno, but you can have jalapeno in the sausage and some cheap ass American cheese wrapped around it to give it like that creamy feel.
As the ostensible vegetarian, you can also get jalapeno cheese, which is really good.
Yet another variation.
But very
that would
make
Czech. Sense. That would make sense. But can you get cheese without the sausage or the jalapeno? I don't think so.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Trust me. I'm at the destitute end of the kolache line where they're like, what did we have left? Oh, fine, just cheese.
That's true. And then the only difference is the Shipley style kolache again has it's not 2/3 of your hand. It's, if you were to hold your hand up, it probably is from your index finger down to the bottom of your hand. It's that long. It's thinner than a Central Texas corridor kolache. And they have the sausage in there a little bit thicker than a hot dog. That is not a hot dog that has the skin, but they will also do the jalapeno.
All right, Coté, I think we should wrap here on two important questions because I think you're clearly the expert on this. One, I'll give them to you both. One, what is the best kolache, right? And two, as our dear listener Jan wrote in, he really feels like we shouldn't be calling the Texas Central Texas kolaches. He's recommended Texas spicy dough packets or yeehaw buns. So my question is, one, what is the best kolache? And two, do you think we can keep the name here in Central Texas?
Well, I've worked in marketing for nigh on a decade. So essentially all kolaches that you're going to get are great for all the stuff. Like, they're all going to be fantastic. So I'm going to go based on the esprit de kolache, right? Like the spirit and the thing of it. And I think one of the most brilliantly named places in the Central Texas Kolache corridor is the Czech Stop. And I think that is where, I mean, all three of us know this. I don't know what its dominance is nowadays that you have Buc-ee's around, but that used to be an obligatory stop on the I-35 corridor.
Absolutely. There. Yeah.
Always the Czech Stop.
Yep.
Always
still
great.
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I don't even know if their kolaches are the best, but they're clearly the best. That's where you're
all right. Sorry. So those are the best. And then on the name, can we keep calling them kolaches? Or another late to the one other Yeehaw Packets has also been suggested in the chat.
Now, you know, no one more than you, Brandon, but all of us have been involved in renaming things, and so we know that it's challenging to rename something. But I'm exiting the meeting being like, if we can, I would love to call them Yeehaw Buns. If that's possible, let's float that out there and see if we can do it. But it's fine. I don't mind. You know, I know we're gonna have to put together the slides for like the Gardeners,
update the collateral
and Futurum and everything.
The new thing. Okay,
I mean,
and the Red Monk people are gonna be like, James is gonna be like, love the name, and Steve's gonna be like, yeah, and then and all these people.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to stick with Kolache, but you know, Yeehaw.
I think we're gonna have to make a whole new market. I mean, we will be shooting for a new Magic Quadrant of Yeehaw Buns. That's where this thing ultimately goes.
You know, if there are any potential donut / kolache shop owners out there, the title's yours. You can take that. That is yours.
That's right. That's right. Just advertise on the podcast because we're the number one kolache podcast in the world. So, well, good, Coté. I appreciate you walking us through that. I feel like I was about to say, well, I'm sure we've wrapped up this topic, but I'm actually not sure at all. So we'll see. We'll see where the feedback goes from here.
Yeah, well, if there's any questions, I think we have answers. Even if we don't have them, we could make them up, and I think they would sound good. Well, speaking of things that have answers, have y'all used the new GPT-5? What's your thoughts?
I've definitely used it, and I feel like it's fine. You know, I don't feel that's the whole thing. Like I thought about this all week. I feel like I was like, we have a podcast. I need to have strong takes. I need to inform the audience. I'm like, I think it's maybe slightly better, but it could just be because people told me it's better and I just perceive it as being slightly better. But I think it's fine. It pretty much does what it did before, maybe slightly better. Matt,
that doesn't sound like it changed your life.
Yeah, Matt, what was your take, Matt?
As someone who has I'm over here in Gemini land, so I'm not seeing this, but I haven't seen anybody really impressed. I've seen people are like, you know, oh, it's marginally better. This is amazing. But I think this is like, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it sounds like it's hit diminishing returns. You know, for the order of magnitude more resources they probably expended to put this out, it sounds like it's, you know, less than a 10% improvement over, you know, previous generations. It's not just, you know, blowing everything out of the water, which kind of makes the whole you know, oh, AGI is right around the corner sound like, you know, even more foolish than it did a week ago.
Well, I think you had like a write-up on like the whole, because I mean, I think the hard thing is, because I would say this, it's like, I want to have a strong take and I want to be like, well, it's a lot better, a lot worse, but it's sort of like, well, maybe I'm just not asking the right questions, you know, like I haven't really mastered on doing something. Because I think I've always had the best experience where I'm like really impressed when I'm like doing a small coding project. But if I'm not doing that, I'm doing my boring, you know, regular job stuff where I'm just like rewriting text or, you know, getting educated on some subjects. It's like, yeah, it seems like it's maybe like a little bit better, but I don't know. So, but maybe we're just like, our expectations are just too high. I don't know. Coach, I know you had a newsletter on this. What were your thoughts?
No, I think that's exactly it. Is, well, like two ways of putting that is, I think it's a valid question or thought to have of like, I haven't referenced this movie in forever, but you remember that movie, As Good as It Gets, which was like, like that was a shortening of a phrase, which I think the Jack Nicholson character said, which is, what if this is as good as it gets? And maybe that is like the question to get here is like, to your point, Matt Ray, if like you spent all this money and talk, if you call that marketing or whatever, like to say like we've done all this work and it's a big deal, and we've actually increased the number by a full, what do you call that, integer, instead of it just being like a, you know, 4.8
right
X9 Pro or whatever.
Major release, no minor releases here.
Yeah. Like I don't like it is like, to put it another way, right? When you go look at like what people like Tyler Cowen and other people say, they're basically like, you listen to some commentary and they're like, I think AGI is already here, which is it sounded kind of stupid a couple years ago, but maybe they have a good point of like, well, I mean, how smart are humans and capable, right? And like, if we were to take like the average human and their kind of like cognitive ability and strip them away of all the abilities to actually like, I don't know how else to put it, but like, let's assume you had the average human with no MCP servers. How good would they be?
Right.
Like you're just like a brain in a jar that can basically like talk and respond. And the memory thing is that's a whole other, well, not a whole other issue, but that is the main difference between like brain in a jar of the average human and kind of like the AIs that we've seen is memory. Like you would assume unless I don't know a lot about biology, but I assume all the memory is in the brain. So that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like between the two of them.
I mean, I was going to say that, it's, have we kind of plateaued at this, overeager intern. But you're making me think, well, maybe I need to think of it more as like, a deep Saturday Night Live cut here of Tom Hanks, Mr. No Short-Term Memory, where he's like, he's on Jeopardy. He's pretty smart, but but also like he can't remember the last thing you were talking about. And oh, look, it's Tony Randall, right? And so maybe this is where we are. Everyone's going to have an intern in their pocket or their earbud or wherever, or glasses. But just like we were all there, and hopefully we all gained some experience. But what if they just never get better? It's still kind of useful, right? You're gonna give them some work. You're gonna say, go work on these slides for me, and then when I'm done, I can at least clean them up. Well, maybe not slides, but maybe Excel.
Right. And so I think like, just as with, I don't know enough about the actual technology to know when the analogy between humans and AI breaks down, just sort of like based on how it works. So I'll sweep that aside. But like just as with humans, like the way you think and as Merlin Mann would say, the thought technologies you have, like they get better over time. Like, if you study any liberal arts thing or even sciences, you see how like, at one point, Sir Francis Bacon was like, hey, how about science? And then that was amazing, right? And so forth and so on, right? So you get new tools and ways of thinking. And so if you're just the brain in the jar, you can think better, but not by that much, right? Like it's just little tools that you have, but it's really like the actual tools that you have, your ability to like operate beyond the jar that like start making a big difference. How you actually, how you engineer things. Like that's the difference between like an academic and an engineer. Like what's the old meme cartoons of like, the way a scientist does something and it's like this perfectly constructed thing, and the way an engineer does something and it's just a bunch of duct tape. Like how they make everything fit together.
Well, but I guess one of the things I think that's come out of all this discussion, though, it does seem like the mainstream take now, I think, is sort of like the idea that AGI, or this idea that like we will create a super intelligence that then creates more super intelligence that trains itself and like sort of like takes over the world, and and we're all out of work, right? That feels like most people now are saying like, unlikely to happen anytime soon. Maybe never. Maybe we're going the wrong path, which is, I don't know. So it's always interesting just to flip it around and be like, well, okay, that seems to be what most of us are. Most commentaries see that. So I guess the contrarian take now is actually the opposite. I think is actually like, no, this is a huge step towards that. Let's call it like super AGI, right? And because it feels like that group of people is dwindling, that actually see it, and because while it is, like I said before, like I think we all kind of touch it, it just isn't, you're not feeling the momentum towards that anymore.
Right.
Which then finally, I think it's sort of like we're all kind of like, and then of course, like I feel like maybe we're just struggling as a group, like a whole society, like we're just putting metaphors on it. We're like, oh, it's like an agent, and it's something, but maybe we're just still wrong. We just haven't quite figured out like what exactly to do with it, and we're just kind of like, these metaphors are probably limiting us, right? Where if we're just more like if we thought of it in a different way, we'd be like, yeah, that's what it's good at. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I'm just laughing because I'm remembering all the like stupid overeager stuff I did when I was young, right? So that like totally just like crashed and burned almost immediately, but I invested a bunch of time up front. The metaphors here are quite good. Like, the time in my circuits class where over the weekend I built a water powered computer. I mean, I was like, oh, I get how these logic gates work. You could build them with water. And, there was a mess in my dorm room, and, 2 weeks later it was in the trash. Right. And, or the time that I bought an old, SGI Indigo machine. And, about a month later, I was like, I think I should become a Debian maintainer for MIPS. And, and then I threw that out a couple weeks or, a couple months later. Right. It's just like, I had these brilliant ideas that were terrible, that, weren't ever going to work. And if someone, with a little more experience would have, stepped in, they would have been like, whoa, tap your brakes. You're spending a lot of calories here, a lot of tokens on things that aren't that useful. And, because I also had like a day job with good mentors and stuff, and they would like, direct me and keep me on the path. So I feel like, if this is as good as it gets, it's not terrible, right? You just learn how to harness these interns and keep tabs on them because you can't trust them.
Well, the other thing is I think that's really enlightening is to your kind of point about like, just it's confusing, right? And like, is wasting time. It's like, in theory, OpenAI, the people closest to this, right, that know everything, they just seem to be changing their minds about how this should work on a like almost daily basis. Like even as we're saying this now, I'm sure something's going to change. So first they took away the 4.0 model, but then it turns out people really like the personality. So they had this model router, but then people were really mad 4.0 left, like they lost a friend. So they added that back. And then they sort of announced it like, well, yeah, you don't have to pick the models. We'll pick the right model for you. That made the paid users upset. They wanted to be, pick the, if you will, the thinking model, the most expensive one. And then of course, just the names of these, like there's not only numbers like 3.0, there's like 4.0, and then there's the letter 4.0, and then they keep swapping them in and out. And so it just kind of shows you like even the people that are closest to this have kind of no idea what they're doing, right? They're just kind of experimenting with the chat bot and like the models and like what people should actually pick themselves versus what they should actually, do. So I think that's like, that to me, just, I don't know. There's just always something I like about that. It's like, no one knows anything. Like even the smartest people don't know what they're doing. And I think the biggest next thing I think is simply, to channel a little Ben Thompson, as we do every podcast, is just sort of like, when does OpenAI capitulate and be like, we need to make more money, let's introduce some level of advertising? Because that is going to be the moment where we go from, if you will, the narrative to the reality of numbers. It's like, is there actually a gusher of money like there was with Google behind this? Because I know they're kind of sticking to subscriptions for the most part, but it seems like, the thing that's sitting out there is like, oh no, if we turn on some type of, advertising, that there is actually going to be $1 trillion company. And until they actually test it, we won't know. And of course they have lots to lose on that. If they turn on the advertising and it doesn't work, then that's going to be a real point where people aren't going to want to invest in them more. And flip side, if they turn it on and it's more effective than Google, they may be the most valuable company ever built. So that's like, I don't know. To me, it's like, that's the more interesting thing than the actual models.
It is like odd that they don't. I can't even imagine, for as much as I can talk about Kolache science and speculation, like I can't imagine the scenario where advertising is bad for them and therefore why they haven't done it already. Because everyone wants to use it for free, and the internet, or the World Wide Web, I don't know about the internet, has proven that people will tolerate, or I should say, people will pay for what they want by seeing ads. They're totally cool with that. And so it does seem like, I mean, you could just do total stupid banner ads of just like every 3 seconds, you've got a different banner ad showing to you in Chat GPT. And that could be some revenue. Not to mention all the other stuff that they would do.
Right. Well, and they did hire. It's worth noting that I guess like their head of product was the former CEO of Instacart. And I know you guys were saying Instacart don't they deliver groceries? They do, but I think a lot of their revenue comes from advertising within Instacart, right? So I think that's her charter. Like she certainly has the background, let's say, right? So it's sort of like you have this advertising spigot that you can turn on. Now I know when you listen to interviews with Sam Altman, he's like, no, we're going to do something different. And, we think there's better ways, but at some point, you run out, like either the subscription revenue happens, or you just kind of that, if you will, that, pool in case of emergency, right? That it's like, okay, we need to put the ads in, which like, to me, that's the foundational moment of all of this is like, is there an ad model, that we know Matt Ray is not going to accept it. Is there an ad model that the bulk of the internet would accept? And then of course, is that ad model, because I assume it'd be somewhat contextual, right, to what you're doing. Is that ad model really effective? Because that's the moment that like, okay, it's really on at that moment. Well, it really is.
I think the Matt Ray solution is he's going to buy a new house where he's got a whole room that he can set up a cluster of computers to run his AI thing so that he has no ads.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to just like keep channeling Ed Zitron. It's like, show me that there's $1 trillion a year ad business here, because that's what they're spending on infrastructure. Like, right. Can you differentiate yourself from existing advertising enough to carve out that much from the ad market to justify it? And I don't think it's there, because I think even if Google and Facebook had kept going down their merry path without slapping AI all over everything, they were already working on this path, right? They were already big investors in AI for advertising, for ads, before we had this big NVIDIA based explosion. And like, where did they think that they weren't already on this path? I mean, did they think that nobody was like, they're going to carve out something brand new and completely different? It's like, no, we're full of fast followers. And for you to tell me that like, oh, the world is ready for another $1 trillion of just investment, not returns, but just investment, $1 trillion of investment for better ads, for more invasive
Well, I
ads?
think it just comes down to, Google, many people say it, right? It's like Google search, the best business ever built. So it's like, and I think this, to me, it's like, there's almost a polar opposite. It's like, Ed Zitron, hopefully I'm saying his name correctly right this week. I don't know. He's sort of the bear case of all of this, right? And then
he's the messenger.
We'll throw out, maybe Sam Altman's on their side, but he sort of doesn't. I guess he sort of openly has said he doesn't want to do that. But Ben Thompson, let's use him. It's just sort of like, hey, this is the next giant consumer internet company. They just need to turn on ads. So it's like, okay, until they actually do it, like no questions can really be answered until they do it, right? Then it's like someone will be right, someone will be wrong. Like, yes, this is it could be the greatest business model ever developed, or it could just be like, no, turns out the ad model either doesn't work, it's rejected, or it's just not as effective for whatever reason.
I mean, is this the dystopian future we want to live in, where we've got interns making better ads for us that are terrible, right? And I'm sitting here trying to fight against the tide forever. That's the future I'm living in. Thanks.
Well. Let me. I don't know what's between a bear and a bull. I'm going to call it maybe a honey badger, right? Like let's give the honey badger case, which is, I think, I don't know if this is like, as I said last episode, a man cannot think in a way that would devalue his index funds. So I'm just speculating here, but maybe if this is as good as AI is going to get. So what is the case for it still being worth what it currently is? And it could be analogously sort of like email was in the 90s. Now it has a different effect and different use, but if you were to look at like email in the 90s, I forget if it was, it was my friend Mason who worked for a professor at some point at Berkeley in probably, I don't know, 99 or 2000, and his job was to print out his emails and take it to the professor so that he could do his correspondence. Right?
What a job!
Good intern work.
Oh my gosh.
There's probably other stuff, but it's sort of representative of like at the time, email was not what it is now. It was like a weird, interesting thing, right? So if we look at AI as it is, I don't know what the numbers are, right? It's impossible to know, despite what people may say, is you don't really know, to use a distinction I love, you don't know the penetration of it, how much it is used by every individual globally, how many hours a day, right? Like how much how pervasive it is, how ubiquitous it is, like email. Like you would look at email and you would probably be, of course, there are people who don't have mobile service, et cetera, so forth. But email is pretty much done as a TAM. We're finished, right? Like there's not a lot of like growth oriented people who are pursuing the email market, right?
The private equity scooped up all the mail guns.
Yeah, even Superhuman finally gave up. They got sold off. They were like really on the email train. But
exactly.
Anyway, another topic. Go on, Coté.
Exactly. And so if we think about if AI is like email in 1999, right? Like email hasn't really gotten better since 1999. Like all of the innovation
got worse, right?
All the innovation in email has been preventing it from getting worse, right? Just like spam detection and all this kind of stuff. And when you added labels in Gmail, revolutionary. It was amazing, right? Like so, like everything has been. Email hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't advanced as a technology. It has just not gotten worse actively, essentially, right? And so if we froze AI where it is now and just got like a little bit better, like, email in the 99, you couldn't have HTML. Now you can. We don't even think about it. It used to be like, I'm sure Matt Ray still vomits when he gets HTML email, but like the rest of us, we don't even notice.
I've learned to accept the reality, right? I've got some bold in my emails. I've got a signature
in his Pine email client. What is this HTML stuff? Go on.
Anyways, like that's the honey badger case I'm thinking of is like it's email in 1999. Like even though it's never going to get better, the global worldwide civilization improvements that when 30% of the market still starts actually using it, it will still be so monumental that it'll be worth it, right? And I was talking with someone, I went to go see a Extreme, if you remember that band, in Tilburg last night. And this is a good question, but it was fantastic. Anyways, and we were talking about AI on the car trip down there. And it's just sort of like I've said this before on the podcast many times, is like in the corporate world, most people are terrible writers.
Yeah.
Like they are really bad at communicating, just like, and whatever. I don't need to repeat it to sound like even more of an asshole than I'm already sounding, but just like it takes a lot of effort to be good at writing. And then even if you're good at writing, it still takes a lot of effort to do it every time. Anyways, so like, what if emails in most every organization were not terrible? Like it's really boring, but it would be amazing, right? Like it would increase, it would be like a civilization changing moment in the same way that like I can go watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy without having to wait for it to come into theaters 3 years from now.
Well, maybe we could just generalize your statement a little bit. Just be like, hey, would it be better if you could like learn something faster and write about it faster and more, in a better way? And that's kind of like when I think about like what I really do. It is like I use AI to like help me learn about stuff, right, all the time, and then help me proofread and obviously on the coding side, that is like actually creating, right?
Right. And something
new. Like, those are all like those are all very tangible, important benefits.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. That's where I am at the moment.
But we're still stuck though. I think we still come back to like on the business side, I'm still kind of like really 3 ways to make money, at least that we've seen in these companies. It's like advertising, sell subscriptions, or in the case of like an Apple type business, you sell some type of hardware device. And ideally that hardware device needs to be upgraded every like 2 to 4 years. So it's like,
right.
Okay. So today, OpenAI, I don't know. They say they have like 700 million active monthly subscribers. Maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. And so it's like, I don't know if I don't know if you could ever convert enough of those people to subscription to justify the valuation, but you can try. I guess that's what by default, that's what they're trying now. So I guess it's sort of like I'm very interested if they try the ads. And then, of course, I guess they have this Johnny Ive thing out, the MacGuffin thing, right? It's like, who knows what it is? We know it's not. We know what it's not, but we don't have any idea what it is. Like, maybe they'll create a device, and maybe we'll have to buy that device every 2 to 3 years, and they'll have an Apple-like business. So it's like, to me, that's like when they actually do one of the other two, then we're going to then we can actually have Ed Zifron on the podcast, and he could see it, be like, yeah, I see, you're right. They failed at all three of those. Or we could have Ben Thompson on the podcast and he'd be like, see, I told you this aggregator ad model would work, because it's like, we just no, I mean, it's just, there's only I know you're like the honey badger outcome, but I think it's more binary. It's like, it is either going to work and be spectacularly great, or it is going to miss. And we're all going to be like, oh, we knew it was a bubble. I just don't, the honey badger, I think it's a bear bull kind of thing. I don't think there's a honey badger outcome. Yeah, Matt, you want to say something?
I just, I'm just not seeing, trillions here. Prove me wrong. Maybe, but I just kind of see, Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook continuing to dominate this because they can fast follow enough. And I just, there's just so much crazy investment that's happened here for no return, Yeah.
You don't want to be the, what is it? Pets.com.
Well, it's not pets.com. It's like, it's like they're shipping you dog food with a brick of, a gold bar inside each package, right? They're like, oh yeah, we're making it up in volume. It's like, whoa, I mean.
Well, I'll tell you this though, Matt, the thing that we do know is that maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But we know the one thing that all our friends in the enterprise like to do. When we see a new technology, you know what we like to do? We like to build up the ecosystem. So I was just like this week in the ecosystem, I mean, it's sort of like, oh, there's something new. You know what we should do? We should build a monitoring solution for it, a logging solution, a security solution, an optimization solution, a backup solution, an analytics solution, and many I didn't actually name. So this week there was articles like your AI workloads still need a service mesh. Of course. Welcome to the networking service mesh team. There's an AI security company that's going to manage our Gen I risk and secure the LLM apps. We're going to need that, of course. There's Requesty. They're going to have a unified interface, as we call the old broker pattern. That way, they're going to pick the right LLM for you based on your cost and your subscription,
like an API gateway.
We've been there before, and then the list of these just go on and on and on. So it's like, no matter what happens, the enterprise ecosystem always shows up. So, of course, they're going to be very tied to the actual success of any of these AI solutions. But I just find it almost, I don't know if it's good or bad. And obviously, I've spent a lot of my career. So have you guys in this world of the ecosystem, if you will, monitoring, logging, and securing applications around it. But it's kind of fun. It's just almost like, oh, we're getting the band back together. Everybody that made money in the 90s or the aughts, and maybe you hit that security company, or maybe you did a great job monitoring back in the day. It's like, let's take the greatest hits, let's put them through auto-tune, let's update the lyrics a little bit, and let's see if we can do it again.
Oh yeah.
So Coté, what do you think? Is this are we going down this path whether we like it or not?
I think so, and I think you went over all of it, and I think the way I think about this was solidified by, I think it was Brian Cantrell on an Oxide thing, Oxide and Friends podcast, when what was it? Deep Think? What's the Chinese thing everyone freaked about back in Christmas? DeepSeek came out, and I didn't verify this, but he's credible. That's part of his charm. Whether he's right or not, sounds like he's speaking correctly. He was saying what they figured out is that you put a load balancer in front of the AI. And he was kind of like, computers, that's how they work, right? And so I think that's ultimately, to your point, Brandon, when you get into the enterprise space for anything, which is, I think you listed 3 business models for AI, and there's the 4th, which is the enterprise, right? Which is I don't want advertising. I want complete control, blah, blah, blah.
Right? Yeah, enterprise licensing, SaaS business, API gateway stuff.
Right. And so that's the 4th business model. And technologically, that whole business, everything that the enterprise wants, other than, as our friend Andrew Clay Schaefer would say, I want all of that for nothing without changing any way that I work. right? That's the ultimate enterprise. Zero change, zero cost, right? So is technologically what you have to do is you put a load balancer in place. Now, you might call a load balancer a proxy. You could call it a facade. You could call it a non-gendered person in the middle, whatever you want. But you have something that intercepts a call from point A, and before it gets to point B, you've got this thing in the middle that controls everything that happens, a check stop, if you will. and once you can introduce that into your enterprise architecture, Bob's your uncle, and next thing you know, you're Mark Benioff on some Hawaiian island, right?
Yep.
Well, that's a bad analogy because there's no load balancer involved in that. That's a whole other area. But that's more of the systems approach to doing things. And so I think that's probably for the enterprise case, what you end up with is just like, who's going to be the, I guess it would be 3. I don't know if it's 2 anymore, but who are the 2 to 3 people who have their load balancer in there to do all of the control?
Yeah, who is the next Datadog? The monitoring Datadog, the whiz of AI security. Maybe it's still Wiz. I don't know. Maybe they're so new that they're actually going to figure out this one too. But it is both. I don't know. It's both familiar and depressing though. It's like we are like speculating on like AGI and blah, blah on all these things. And then there's like just a sea of people running to do the same type of ecosystem stuff that's been done for every conceivable technology before. Databases, operating systems, enterprise applications, SaaS. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it is sort of like, it's funny. It's like, well, maybe this will end the world and it'll be the smartest thing ever. But what we need to do is let's just do all the stuff we did before. So it'll be fun to watch.
And so speaking of that, now I haven't listened to it yet. So the last thing I wanted to cover before we get to our wrapping up is in our Slack channel, which you can get to if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/Slack. All sorts of great conversation there. We put links. We, as in the community, not just the 3 of us, we have links in discussion. There's even a sports channel, I assume. Is there anything interesting going on there with
lots of interesting stuff? Lots of fun stuff happening in sports right now.
The marathon in the cave.
Yeah, you got to get in there.
Okay.
Coté.
All right, sounds good. But like there was a Oxide and Friends podcast recently. They got $100 million. I don't know if that's cash or however they do it. A Series B, which now that I'm looking at it,
Amazon credits.
They've survived this long with just a Series A, so good for them. But it looked like there were some comments on private cloud, so I wanted to get y'all's take. What did they say about private cloud? Did it confirm my sort of like private cloud is whatever you want it to be? There's a lot.
Yeah, well, I think it was just fun because I think Brian Cantrell, like I think I don't know. I think he just sometimes says the I don't know, the secret thing out loud, if you will, but it's just funny because they did a whole long episode about how they raised money. And if you think our Kolache tangent was long, you should go listen to that episode. They got some long tangents, but in a good way now. But one of the questions, I won't read the whole thing, but one of the questions was from Adam Leventhal. He was asking it, sort of doing the moderated thing was, okay. It basically came down to what percentage of enterprise IT compute has not moved to the public cloud, right? So we talk about this all the time. And so Brian Cantrell's answer was, isn't it whatever number you want it to be for whoever you are? And I just was like, yes, that is the answer. That is absolutely the answer. And I think it's just, it made me think a lot about TAM a little bit. We talk so much about it. It's like, just how irrelevant TAM is, like to everything. It's sort of like, once, and I guess I think it's fun because they were even joking about like, oh, well, what you do is you come up with the number you want and then you launder it through some analyst firm like IDC or Gartner, right? You just like, you want it to be big and then you just use that number however you want. So in their case, they can use it as like, see, there's a bunch of stuff not moving to the public cloud. That's why you need to buy their computers. And of course, Andy Jassy likes to look at it like, see, look at all this stuff that's going to move. But again, like who knows, right? But in the case of both Oxide and Amazon, I just thought to myself, it's like, it doesn't matter once you've like start executing and building towards a goal within, some defined market, like you're implicitly saying that you believe the total addressable market is big enough to meet whatever your financial goals are. Right. So it's like, why even worry about it? It's like you're not going to go to Andy Jassy today and be like, we just got an updated TAM forecasts, and it's only like a third. We should stop. Like, I mean, like that. I mean, Amazon's going to invest as much as AWS as possible, and the same thing with our friends that are not our friends, but the friends at Oxide. It's like if I went to them, it was like, turns out everything's moving to the cloud. You're going to have nothing left. No one needs. Although they would say the cloud computing would buy it, but like no one wants your computers. It's like no. They've already committed, I mean, they're full bore, they're going. So it's like, I think it kind of made me think about this. Like when you're in existing companies, like it's just a narrative talking point. That's what you're searching for. It doesn't actually have any implication or actually change what you're doing. When you're in a company already pursuing it, you just go get a data point that helps your narrative that you can tell a story around. But no matter what that number is, you're just going to keep going. Now, maybe you could argue, maybe this is your old job, Coté. It's like maybe before you did anything, either you bought something, you invested something, maybe then at that moment, TAM actually does have an effect, right? You'd be like, I don't know. This market's not big. Let's not build it. Let's not buy that company. Let's not do anything. But as soon as you've moved on to it, and this is why I think everyone should stop. Like if you're in a place where everyone's already committed and someone asks for TAM, you should be like, no, you mean you just need the narrative number that helps investors sleep safely. That's all we're looking for. We don't actually need... We don't need any real data. We just need something to give our investors and make them feel good about what we're doing.
You just say we can agree it's big enough. That's it. That's all you need to say. And big enough, if you're raising money for a hardware company, it's obvious it's big enough. You don't need to know if it's 4 trillion, 3 trillion. It doesn't matter. You're not close to that anyway.
Right, and you don't really know what it is. It doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah,
you just know like you're gonna do it. And I liked another little phrase. I was like helping ChatGPT. I was like, give me some ideas. Like, and they came back with like a bedtime story for investors. That's really what TAM is. Like, and you're in a company, it's like, hold on, oh, you're new. Let me get you the bedtime story. Make you feel good when you go to bed, just like your little kids, right? Like, let me tell you the little story. Like, oh, it's going to be huge, and it's going to be, and we're going to get all of it, all the porridge. Don't worry about it. Have a nice sleep. Don't worry about it, young investor or old investor. It's all greatness. Sleep tight. So, and I like that. I just think that's what he was sort of like saying out loud, which I hadn't thought about it as deeply, but I always want to say this out loud when I'm in internal meetings and we hear about this. I'm like, guys, we're committed. We're not, we're not
changing
stopping,
our mind.
right?
Yeah.
We're doing this podcast every week. If we know the TAM, we're still out here doing it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
this is the sunk cost fallacy of podcasts.
I'm going to say the TAM could be $5 billion or it could be nothing. We're still out doing this podcast. I mean, it's not stopping.
You pulled together two ideas I had rattling around in my head that had no connection, so I didn't know how I would tie them together. But you did it there, which is one. I think a total addressable market, which is to say a TAM, which is to say the amount of money annually that is spent on the type of business that you're in, toothpaste, CRM, private cloud, whatever it may be. The notion of a TAM kind of assumes that it's static, right? That it's not going to grow or change. And so if you're talking about TAM, it's like there's an existing market and we have something new that is going to allow us to
carve out,
take money from it. Like, so maybe in the commercial area, I mean, not the commercial area, like the consumer area, something like Harry's Razors is a valid TAM thing where like we've got this new way. I don't know the lore and the truth, but like we've got this new way of selling razor blades. We're going to have some awesome YouTube videos. And what we're going to do is we're going to be able to go like, there's probably not that many people who are buying razor blades than there were 50 years ago. So the TAM is probably what it is, right? Like to make another SNL thing, like all you can do is add another blade. There's not much you're going to do, right? Like, and so, however, if you are going after the razor blade TAM, that makes sense because you're going to say, here's something we're going to do that is going to allow us to take money away from Gillette and Schick and whatever, right? So that's fine. But if you're coming up with a brand new thing, like to use our example, AI, it's like, well, the previous TAM was shit doesn't work, right? And so like once it does work, we create a whole new market. It's kind of irrelevant, right? So I think that is the issue with like TAM based thinking is it assumes you're not innovating. You're not coming up with something brand new. And then the other thought to part of what you're saying, what we're saying, Brandon, is like, it makes me think to the point of our podcast. If I remember the history correctly, capitalism was basically created because, a 15-minute bike ride north of here, like the Dutch were sending these ships out to go, after they stole some maps from the Portuguese. They were going to Indonesia to get some spices. And they found that the ships didn't return. And so they wanted to like speculate and have shares based on like, well, the ship may not return, so we need insurance, and we're going to speculate on them and have people pay into it, and we'll have a big payoff if they come back. And so like you're going to have companies or podcasts or people building servers who just are going to like do that, right? And they're going to do it over and over again. And at that point, like a TAM doesn't really matter. It's more like, is the ship going to return? Like, are you going to make a server with some custom software and some backplane, or have some great analysis for 17 minutes at the beginning of an ostensible tech podcast about kolaches that like makes people like what you're doing? Like, all that matters is that the barrel of pepper gets back. Fuck the TAM, right?
Exactly right. Well, and I think that's why it's a bedtime story, because like it's a binary outcome. The ship either comes back or doesn't.
There you go.
Right. And it's just for you. Like there is the story is just like, you can just tell whatever, if you want a story to make yourself feel better, but it's still going to be this. And it's like, I think AI is a good example. We've been talking about all show. It's just sort of like, listen, open AI is going to raise literally an infinite amount of money going after this. They will either succeed and be hugely successful, or it will be a complete waste of time and money. And it's like, so like the TAM is irrelevant. You know what I mean? It's like, if you just want to tell yourself that there's a huge TAM and, they should do it, or you're more on the Zifron side, is like, there's no TAM. It's like, fine. Either one is fine. But it's like, it's the same thing. It's just a story. So I like that. And I appreciate Brian Cantrell for like saying it so succinctly in a public space. So good for him.
Well, speaking of things that take a lot of effort with the questionable payoff, do we have any bureaucracy this episode, Brandon?
We don't have anything beyond, as I said before, stay tuned. I'll read the entire email from Jan about the Kolache and the after show. Other than that, a thing that we know, I know I don't know the TAM, but I know it's a binary outcome. And if you send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, I'm going to send you a sticker anywhere in the world, because I believe the TAM is big enough to support that.
Absolutely.
Good story.
There are many conferences that I would like to highlight. I'm not going to go over all of them, but if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/533, you can get a list of them. There are a few I want to highlight. Spring One is coming up in Las Vegas, August 25th to 28th. And, if you're interested in Java programming, if you like Las Vegas, if you want to go somewhere, you should check that out. There's also Explore running, which you may remember as VMworld. I'm sure it's great. You can learn how to do things with virtual machines and Kubernetes. I like applications, so great for them doing their infrastructure stuff. We rely on them to do what we like in the application area. That's also running concurrently, August 25th to 28th. There's also Wiz Capture the Flag in, how do you say it, Matt Ray? Brisbane.
Nailed it first time. Brisbane.
Interesting way of bin. Anyways, that's August 26th. Matt will be there.
Hopefully.
Whizzing all over the place. It'll be fantastic. I'm sure that's the first time that joke is played.
Oh.
Anyways. Also, two more things. So I really like the SRE Day conferences. There's a London one coming up that I'll be speaking at September 18th and 19th. There's also an SRE Day in Paris, if I remember, and some in the US. But go to sreday.com and check out all the conferences they have. I was talking with someone I was replying to someone in the like DevRel Avocado Slack channel who was looking for actual like operations SRE stuff. And I think the SRE Day conferences, if this is an odd endorsement, like there are practitioners talking there, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get a sandwich. Like they're a little too like low level and deep for like
a lot of
what
sandwiches.
I can tolerate. So it's a good conference if you actually want to talk like SRE and ops stuff. And then finally, There's Cloud Foundry Day in October 7th in Frankfurt that I'll be at. And then also AI for the Rest of Us, October 15th and 16th in London. Two of those that I'm looking very much forward to, and I will be at as well. Now, speaking of things I'm looking forward to, Matt Ray, what is your recommendation for this episode?
My recommendation this week is Devo's YouTube channel. Devo, kind of a classic band, but they've got a new series called The Evolutionary Times, and they're kind of going through. They're doing like remasters of all their early videos and putting them. They're probably putting them into a box set, but they're also posting them on YouTube and taking Q&A. So it's if you like Devo at all, it's pretty fascinating. Just a lot of backstory about who people were, and hanging out with Neil Young and Mick Jagger and just all this stuff that's kind of like, wait, what? So check that out. The channel's great.
How about yourself, Brandon?
My recommendations this week is the AirPods Max. It's my quest to own every conceivable headset ever built. So I've added this one. I had a chance to get it on a little discount, and I wasn't sure if I'd really like it, but I'm designating this as I think it's the perfect conference call headset. When you're on your web calls, on your Zoom meetings, I like it because it's over the ears. It has very good sound isolation, easy to if you will, interact with your Mac. And it just sort of puts me in, if you will, in a conference call, web meeting kind of mood. It's almost I feel like I'm going in a different room. So I like it. It's a little pricey, but like I said, if you find a way to get a little discount on one, pick it up, add it to your arsenal of headsets. You always need another headset.
I think in my personal study, and I'm going to call it N equals 3, which is to say me, my son Cormac, and my wife Kim. When it comes to the AirPods Max, it might be the most consequential technology of the last 5 years. Now, I gave my AirPod Max to Cormac because I like the AirPods Pro for reasons that we don't have time to go in, because I wanted to talk about kolaches, right? I have a thorough analysis of why I like the little ones better. But Cormac, they are just I almost think they might be my new son instead of him. They are sort of ever present and with him. And it's almost the case with Kim. She is constantly wearing those. They have changed her life. She loves them. And wow. So I think when you can convince someone that you should spend, what are they now? $530?
Yes.
$600?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. I think the review on AirPods Max are the best money you will ever spend, based on my N equals 3.
I like it. No, I like it. Now I will say this, just to remember, I like to have them all. I have a place in time for my AirPods Pro, which I love those too, outside riding the bike and for lots of other reasons. We won't go into it. So it's yeah, if you find yourself in such a position, own them all. That's what I say, own them all. And I also say my son also has them, and he loves them as well. So there you go. There's a teen recommendation for you.
Yeah. Civilization changing. Well, my recommendation is a song from this Houston. Well, I don't know if they're based, but they're from Houston, called, I'm going to mess it up probably because they got a weird name, but it's Karengobin. And they have a song called Canase de Fas, which I think we'll have a link to it in the show notes. But it's I don't know, if you sort of have some nostalgia of in the 90s going to the Hog Auditorium and watching old crackly films, whether they were kung fu films or old foreign films,
hard boiled.
Canase de Fas is sort of you're yes, I remember that time. It's a very chill, nice song, and all of the other Karengobin stuff is fantastic to listen to. Not much lyrics, lots of it's not extreme, with, as my friend said, face melting guitar solos, but they do have pretty good guitar in there. So it's good stuff. Now, speaking of things that are good stuff, you've listened to another episode of Software Defined Talk. This is episode 533, which when I look at it, I don't remember. Maybe episodes 300 to 400. I'm not sure what we were doing there.
but you remember the ones before that?
Well, they were great. I'm sure they were great.
They were all memorable.
Yeah, they I mean they're all fantastic. We love all of our children, just all of them equally more than others. Anyhow, if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/533, you can find a link to the Slack where we'll talk about various things. You can find links to The conferences I mentioned the ones that I didn't, all sorts of news items we talked about, many things that we didn't, and how to subscribe if you haven't already. As I don't recommend as much as I used to, but I should. The first thing you should do after listening to this, get all of the iOS, Android. Is there anything else, Matt Ray?
That's 99.99.
The nothing phone.
Yeah, and get all those devices, install a podcast app, subscribe to Software Defined Talk, and on behalf of the other people. Maybe you're waiting in line at Schiphol and you're thinking, why do they only have 2 customs agents or 2 border patrol people checking passports instead of multiple ones? So just go around in that line, say like, could I install something for you that you would enjoy, and add our podcast to that? That would be fantastic. And, you'll have given something to them with the 2 hours they have to wait to get their passport stamped and ask where they're staying, why they're here, how long they will be here. It's actually a pretty efficient line. If you think about it, it's fine. They're very cheery compared to the American people. I love them. Just to be clear. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right. Fantastic. Now we can finally get to what everyone's been waiting for. The full Kolache email reading. I will quickly give it to everyone today, so it's here forever.
Don't speed through it. You got to give it the
I'll
nuance
try.
it deserves.
I'll do my best here. Here's what it says: the following. Dear Software Defined Talk, I just finished listening to your latest episode and nearly fell off my chair when you started talking about Kolache in Texas. Let me get this straight. Texas have taken the humble, delicate, centuries-old Czech Kolache and stuffed it with jalapenos, sausages, and cheese. As someone born and raised in the Czech Republic, I must tell you, this is culinary theft of the highest order. It's right up there with Americans stealing pizza from the Italians, hamburgers from the Germans, or meatballs from the Swedes. In my homeland, a kolache is a soft, sweet, cloud-like pastry with a gentle filling of fruit, poppy seeds, or farmer's cottage cheese. What it is not is a vessel for an entire Tex-Mex breakfast. Jalapeno, sausage, cheese. Now I understand Americans have a proud tradition of taking foreign delicacies and improving them until they are barely recognizable. But please, I beg of you, leave kolache out of it. Call them Texas spicy dough packets or yeehaw buns, if you must, but not kolache. As we say in Czech, no work, no kolache. Yours in pastry outrage, Jan from the Czech Republic. So I did leave out. I couldn't say some of the stuff in. I don't know. Some of the words had like weird accents. I don't know how. I don't know. I guess that's the first thing. Do you say kolache? Like, is it pronounced? Like he's got like the way he spells it correctly. It's like I don't know how to. Does it actually? Is it said a completely different way? Like is it kolak or something? I don't know how to say that A and that C. So you need to figure that out.
He's got some of those letters with the dia whatnot on top of.
Yeah, I don't know, the A and then with the C with the accent. So I don't know if is kolache an Americanized word or is it actually? I don't even know that. So, well, I told Jan, I think this is maybe the best email we've ever gotten. I loved every second of it. I was just like, this is fantastic. So I appreciate it, Jan, and for everyone. Hopefully, we'll hear more about pastry outrage. I think the problem is we don't have enough French listeners. It feels like we certainly should have more people in France criticizing our the way Americans treat food. I think so. So we'll work on that. All right. Well, with that note, and someone's dog is very upset, ready for a walk, I think we need to add the podcast. Just want to say very quickly, good to see Michael and Henning on the chat. And thanks for all of you who are watching at YouTube after the show. With that, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.